Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Intro to Business. So let's start with how should you address me? Every semester, I get students that are trying to figure out, what do we call this guy? So I'm going to try to make it easy. I prefer Miguel. That's my name, and or Cologne. Cologne is good. I've got a bunch of students that just call me Cologne. And then if you must, because your mom's like, you will speak with respect. Mr. C is fine. But don't call me Mr. Cologne or Professor Cologne. Absolutely not. Right. Let's keep it, kind of focused and kind of light. I am not interested in trying to inflate my ego with a title. So Miguel is great. When you text me or you call me, hey, Miguel, hey, Cologne, those things work perfectly fine. We each have a role in this class, and my role is really not that much different than your role. And so there's no need for us to put on airs or try to make me feel like I'm more important because I really don't think I am. Okay, so let's talk about the agenda. All right, so in this presentation, hopefully it won't take more than 20 minutes unless I start babbling, in which case you can just fast forward. But talk about this class. I'm going to get right out of the way. Why do students fail my class? I'm just going to talk briefly about my background. That way you guys know why I should be the guy teaching this class. I'm going to talk a little bit about, it's not spring break. We call it spring break, but it's fall break. Some extra credit, talk a little bit about Canvas, course objectives, etc. So I think it's important you understand this is my first time teaching this class online. I've been teaching it on campus for more than 10 years, and I love it. And I do not use, the normal McGraw-Hill, teaching platform that a lot of my colleagues use. I use a free book, and I create my own tests and I create my own assignments, and I do that in the classroom, and it's brilliant. So I like what's called the case method. And the case method of learning is where you look at real business problems, and your assignment is to try to help solve that business problem, right? And that's challenging for a lot of people because, a lot of our education has taught us to, think within this box, right? And I don't like boxes. So this class may challenge you because I run it a very, very different way than anybody else. The upside is you don't have to spend $125 for the book. Everything is free. The book is free. All the case studies are free because I built them. Everything is free. But the way I run the class could be challenging, and it really is designed to be challenging, right? It should expand your view of the world. I bring real world thinking into the classroom. I barely rely on the book. I'll be honest with you. I don't like to lecture. You're never going to hear me lecture. But if we do talk, we're going to be talking about what's happening now in the real world. One of the big things is help you decide if a career in business is good for you, right? Two, you're going to be a little uncomfortable, but in a good way, right? You're this whole idea of working through case studies. There is no right or wrong answer. I've had a bunch of students second day of class say, after we ran our first case study, they're like, but what's the right answer? There isn't a right answer. It's your answer. And that freedom sometimes creates a little bit of chaos for students. But at the end of the day, if we really think about, the world, nobody wants you to think like everybody else. Everybody wants to know what's in your brain and why what is in your brain is unique. And that's what these case studies are designed to do. And then in some cases, we're going to teach you how to work within a team because you're going to be interacting at least a couple times a week with somebody else in the classroom. You're going to do it on the discussion board. Hopefully some of you will, take some of those discussions offline, but for the most part, you're going to be interacting with other students at least twice a week. So, for some people, they think, oh, online class, I just work at my own pace. I only do my own thing. It's absolutely not the case. There needs to be an interactive component. So, let's talk about why students fail my class. So Especially in this class, there are normally there's going to be two case studies a week. And the first case study will be doing, you'll read it on Monday. You've got until Wednesday to post your response, and then until Friday to comment on the other student's response. And then on Wednesday, there's another case study, and you've got till Friday to put your post, and until Sunday to talk, comment on the other student's posts. So some students forget, you get distracted and you forget to do it. Except each one of these things is worth like 30 points. And we'll get into the points in a few minutes, but you got to do it. You got to post on Canvas. And if you don't, you're going to struggle, right? Some of you, we've got two major projects. I've never had anybody die or cry because of the projects, but they're big deals, right? Nobody else does these, but they're important. And so we do them. And some of you are going to be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And so instead of talking to me, you sort of decide you're just, going to close your eyes and put the covers over your head and hope that maybe it just goes away. It doesn't go away. 3, you're going to get distracted. It's an online class. We move along at a pretty good pace. This semester is the first semester. Instead of having 18 weeks, we've got 16 weeks to do the class, which may not seem like a lot, but man, that's a lot to cut from a class, 12%. And it's a lot. And which means that we move at a pretty good clip. And but maybe you fall behind and you didn't talk to me about what was going on. And this happens every semester, right? Shit hits the fan, and it does, right? Somebody becomes homeless. A parent loses their job, and now you're moving to Tracy. You lose your job, and you're scrambling to try to find another job, and you're stressed. There's always something every semester, right? And but you don't talk to me about what's going on. Like I would hear about. I'm sorry, this last 3 weeks I was going through a really bad period. Why did you drop me? And I don't need the drama, but I got to know what's going on, right? So I can be helpful. And so, passing this class, not just with a C, but passing the class with an A really isn't that hard. Enter your assignments on Canvas straight away. So Monday that comes out, put your post up, read it, read the case study. They're engaging. There's not one boring case study that we've got, and they're all directly related to the chapter that we're reading. And I spend probably 3 or 4 hours on each one of these cases. And so I want to make sure they're worth reading, right? So get your Canvas work done straight away, If you're struggling with a project, send me a text. We'll have a quick chat. I will get you through it. I will be your biggest advocate if you use me. But if you text me the day, this is what happens. The day the project is due, oh, I didn't do my interview. Can I have an extra week? No, because you've already had 2. What's giving you another week going to do, right? If you're struggling with, I can't find somebody to interview, or I'm struggling with the financials, we need to have a chat, and we can have a chat straight away. And that way we can get you on track, right? If you start to fall behind, I don't care the reason. It could be work. It could be you're taking too many classes. It could be you got a relationship problem. I don't care what it is. To be perfectly honest with you, I just need to know you're struggling and that my job is to help you get caught up. But once again, man, you reach out to me 2 weeks later, I got nothing for you. If I've already graded that assignment, my job's done. If during the process, when the work is to be done, if you need help, I'm your guy. But if you reach out to me 2 weeks after I've already done my work, I got to tell you, I'm not going to be very receptive. So we need to have a chat and just send me a text. Hey, something's going on, right? And if shit hits the fan, talk to me. There is nothing you're going to be able to tell me that's going to shock me. Maybe students get, like I said, somebody gets pregnant, somebody has a baby, cars break down, partners slash tires, break windows. There's madness, right? When you're young, there's madness. And so I don't need the drama. I don't need to know what it is. I just need to know what I can do to help. And so, put me in, coach. I'm ready to help. But if you don't put me in, then you're going to be one of those students at the end of the semester that's sad. We'll both be sad. I'm very sad when I give Fs. but I do it. I'm very sad. So let's have a quick chat about AI. Okay. Is if you use ChatGPT, is that cheating? Maybe. Why? Right? Because if ChatGPT is doing your work, that's cheating, right? If you're using ChatGPT to help you think through answers, right? That's not cheating. That's like having a research assistant. But what will happen if you use a chat? You cheat using ChatGPT. Here's the big thing: you're not going to learn. And here's it. We're already to the point where ChatGPT is probably 80% as smart as a human, right? And this thing is learning fast because we're teaching it. And the reality is you need to have some extra value in this society, or AI will replace you. And if you allow it to replace you now when you're young, you're essentially putting the nails in your own coffin, right? And there was also a research study that was done at MIT, and they said if you allow ChatGPT or whatever AI you use to do your work for you, to think for you, this is what they said: your brain connectivity may be systemically scaled down. Like, huh? That is science speak for you'll get dumber. There's no question about this. If you allow AI to think for you, you're done. Forget it. You're going to be 40 years old wondering why your life was horrible. It's because when you were 19, you let an AI think for you, and then eventually that AI replaced you. And you need to be in front of AI, not behind AI. So if you use it to be smart, but don't use it to do your work because you think, oh, just use it. I got to tell you, I've seen it, man, for 3-4 years. And those are not the students that I'm expecting to do extraordinary things in the world. So before you use ChatGPT, ask yourself, did I use it to avoid learning? Right? If the answer is, if you paused, yeah, you did, right? And did AI enhance or replace that learning? If you can't answer those questions without like a pause, you're hurting yourself. You really are, right? That said, I use ChatGPT every single day. I'm working on a doctorate and in business, and I use ChatGPT every single day. And ChatGPT helps me think. But I approach ChatGPT and I'm like, look, here's your job. Your job is to not tell me what I want to hear. Your job is to challenge my thinking. Or I say, hey, Chat, go find me some research on current trends in career development, right? And it will go find me 3 or 4 research reports. I got to go read them. I need to be able to boil down what is it about that research and does it apply? But I use ChatGPT every single day. The case studies that we're going to be using in this class, I created them using ChatGPT. I think we literally, I would go through and say, okay, this is what I want. This week we're studying globalization. What's really sort of in the news right now are tariffs and the impact it's having on pricing and inflation. Here's what I want. I want to be able to create a case study that does blah, blah, blah. Oh, got it. And then I have a chat with ChatGPT. It'll take hours and hours and hours to come up with something. I'll be like, okay, that's great. I will give that to my student, right? The tests that you take every week are going to be, they're what called custom GPTs. Some people call them agents. They're GPTs. So you're going to click on a link, and that link is going to take you to a chat GPT. If you don't have an account, you probably want to create one. And just do the free one. You don't need to spend the money. It's great if you spend the money because then you get a lot. But if you don't want to spend the money, then don't do it. But then you're going to go in and you're going to take your tests using ChatGPT. And those of you that are like, oh, I test really well. Yeah, man, that's not going to apply here. These are conversations that you're going to be having with the AI that's going to be about that. Talk to me about economics, talk to me about business. And you're going to be having a conversation. It's called the Socratic method. And it's really the method of exploring and inquiry. And it's going to be probing you for answers. And it's a really, really dynamic engine. And it took me a long, long time to figure out how to do this, but these things are brilliant. And the feedback I've gotten from students is just off the charts. They're just so impressed and excited about getting to take the test. There's no like, scale from 1 to 10 or, choose the right answer. There is none of that. The good news is that if you complete the test, you get all the points. That's it. It could take you a little bit longer, but you're going to finish the test and you're going to get 100% of the points. So there's never going to be a moment where you call me and say, oh, I totally blew that test. Is there extra credit? If you complete the test, you get all the points because the learning happens within that test as well, right? The midterms, those are same thing, all GPTs, they just take longer. And that's really exciting because now what I get to do is weave a couple issues together, right? 2 or 3 different things. So like when we get to the final exam, I could talk about how is the law of supply and demand impacted when we've got tariffs and prices are increasing at the same time that we've got a labor shortage because of the immigration policies. And as a result, we've got fewer workers, wages are going up. Let's talk to me about that dynamic or the environment in which wages are going up because more workers are trying to unionize. How will that impact the law of supply and demand? And how would you as a company respond to that? It is, we get to, the whole point is it's just so much more dynamic. And I really, really like it. And I build them and then I take them 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And in the end, I'm like, wow, that was great. And I guess I should like it if I build it, right? And so let's just have a quick chat. So I'm a business guy first, right? So I am a instructor of entrepreneurship and business. I lead the entrepreneurship program here. And I'm an entrepreneur. I've started 11 or 12 companies. I've put about $40 million into those companies. And the last company we started during COVID. I say we as I've got a team, like four other people. There's 5 of us total. And we just get together on a pretty regular basis. A couple of us get together all the time. And we get together and we just kick around ideas. I mean, that's just part of our MO. This is what we do. We're just in a constant state of, coming up with new ideas. And the last company that did really, really well, I sold it to a big New York Stock Exchange company. And before that, I was a Wall Street guy, spent my time at Morgan Stanley, great firm. You learn a lot about the world. I've got my master's in business administration from St. Mary's, go Gales. But I'm a Chabot College alum. This was my first college, which is why I teach here. I've never taught anywhere else. I've never taught high school. I've never taught at other community colleges. This is the only place I've ever taught. I've been asked to teach at St. Mary's or at Golden Gate, which is where I'm getting my doctorate, but never even thought about it. Chabot is the only college I want to teach at because this was sort of the college that sort of changed my life. So before Chabot, right, in 11th grade, I dropped out of high school. Education just wasn't a thing, right? My dad's from Puerto Rico. He's got he had a 9th grade education, a 9th grade island education, right? So let's be clear about that. English was the second language until he passed. Mom's from here, 10th grade education. Mom dropped out of high school because she had to go be a waitress because the fam needed money, right? Mom grew up in the projects in Oakland. Pop grew up literally in a jungle in Puerto Rico, right up in the campo, in the country in Puerto Rico. And so I dropped out. I worked as a warehouse, and I spent time as a security guard in Castro Valley, right? There's that Safeway on the corner of Redwood Road and Castro Valley Boulevard. I was a security guard in there. And back in the day, I was homeless for about 14 months. I did a bunch of couch surfing, and the warehouse that I worked in let me, just live in part of the warehouse, which was helpful. And one of the reasons I went to Chabot College was so I could take a shower. I didn't have a car, I had a mountain bike, and it was a tough time, but it didn't feel like it was tough because I was young and fairly resilient. But I didn't have a car, and I was pretty fit because you ride a bike for 2 years and you get pretty fit. And then in spring of 1986, or actually summer of no, it was spring '86. I took a Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Microeconomics class, and don't ask me why I took the class. It's a very long, convoluted story, but for some reason I took that class, and like all the light bulbs went on in my head. It was amazing. For some reason, this guy that did not feel like the brightest bulb in the box. I took that class, man, and I got it. I literally got the first A in the history of me. Even going back to middle school. Middle school, we were getting grades, and I had never got an A in anything. And I got an A in this class. And there was something about economics. I was able to sort of get the concepts and connect the dots, and everything changed, man. It was one of those moments, which is why Chabot is the only place I'll ever teach. After Chabot, I started my first company, and my cousin and I, we knew we wanted to keep going to college, but we needed to make money, and we needed, and finding night jobs and stuff. So we started a janitorial service, and we hired a couple guys, and we started doing that. And then I used the fact that I understood economics, and I sort of was viewed as a little bit of an upstart, because I was starting companies, not doing normal stuff. And I lucked out, and I got hired at Morgan Stanley. It's still arguably the top investment bank in the world. And 1994, 4 years later, I bought my first house. I was 28 years old. And which is ridiculous to think, right? 96, a couple years later, I joined my first technology company. 99, I bought my first Porsche. And I put that on there because, when you're 14, you start picturing what your life is going to look like. There's not only a Porsche, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. For me, it was the red Porsche. 2001, I sold my first company. And I sold it right before 9/11 in June. And so, my trajectory after Chabot was pretty awesome. And because it sort of gave me the foundation, which is why, like I said, it's why I teach here, and why I, want to teach this class in a way that maybe, it'll be meaningful to you as well, right? Oh man, maybe I should change this to 2026. Look at that. So let's talk about spring break. And it's really fall break, but I sort of try to bring that same spring break vibe. So here's what we do. I will give you 100 extra credit points. And that's a lot of points. And to go do a trip. And but it's got to be challenging. It can't be like, I went to Vegas. No, that doesn't count. I want you to go somewhere where the language isn't comfortable, where the food, you're not really sure what you're eating. And I want you to go somewhere where you're moderately uncomfortable, right? So if you're Latino, don't talk to me about you're going to go back to El Salvador, or you're going to go see your family in Jalisco. That's not challenging. Even if you don't get along with your aunt, it's not challenging, right? So if you're Latino, Asia or Europe, and I'm going to remove Italy as part of Europe, and Spain. So you cannot go to Southern Europe, right? Because you go to Italy or Spain, obviously you speak Spanish, you're going to be fine. There's not going to be a whole lot of discomfort. Asian, I would love to see, if you go to Latin America, don't tell me you want to go to Hong Kong or the Philippines. Latin America, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I had a couple of 3 young ladies from exchange students from Vietnam go to Colombia. They went to Medellin, Colombia. And they, this was in my on-campus class, and they came back and their report was, oh my gosh, I never thought I would dance so much, right? And if that's all you remember about going to Colombia, you remembered the best of Colombia, right? And you would not believe, I was like the Grinch, my heart grew 3 sizes. It was amazing, their experience. If you're white, Asia or Latin America, I'd love to see you go to China, go to Vietnam, even Japan. Japan is a brilliant, dynamic place, right? But you can't go to Europe. White people go to Europe. And if you're Black, African American, brother, you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere you want. And I say that because anywhere outside the United States. African Americans, for a number of reasons, don't travel very much. And so you got a lot of freedom. And as to where you want to go. And so here are some options. Here's an easy one: softball, right? Vancouver. But you got to do it a certain way, right? Vancouver, yes, they speak English, and yes, it's, it's our neighbor to the north, and it's not going to be all that challenging, really. But the way I have you do it, it kind of is challenging. And I want you to take a train. You're going to take the train to Seattle, and you're going to jump off the train. They're going to put you on a bus. You're going to take a bus into Vancouver. You normally arrive like 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, and you're a couple blocks from the hostel. But Vancouver is probably one of the safest places in the world. So you can wander around that place at 2 o'clock in the morning and have zero worries. But you're a couple blocks from the hostel, and you're not staying at the Marriott in the harbor. That's where I stay. You stay in a hostel. And if you've never stayed in a hostel is where you stay when you're young. And this is what will happen, because I get every semester somebody goes and does this. And they come back going, oh my God, you were right. What will happen is you stay in the hostel. And sometimes they'll look like this, like dorm rooms, right? And other times if you're female, they normally will put you in a private room with 2 or 3 other females. You can pay to have your own room, but you don't want that. You want to be like with a bunch of other people. So let's assume you're going to get to the hostel 3 o'clock in the morning. They're going to give you a locker to put your backpack. So do not think you're rolling in with a big suitcase. You want a backpack, the shoes you're wearing, the jeans you're wearing on there, because it'll be cold, and maybe a jacket. The stuff in your backpack, you want to keep it tight, right? You're gonna have enough room for a backpack in that locker. You're gonna get there. You're gonna put your locker in there and brush your teeth. Brush your teeth before you go to bed, and then you're gonna go to sleep. You're gonna sleep for maybe 3.5 hours, and you're gonna wake up. And what you're gonna hear languages from all over the world. That is the magic of Vancouver. And you're gonna have a bunch of young people there. And what's gonna happen is you're just get woke up, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, we're gonna go eat breakfast. Do you want to come?" And inevitably, there'll be somebody there that's been there for 4 days, and they know the place to go. And then all of a sudden, you're now in this group chat with a bunch of people for 5 different countries, and you're like, "Okay, now we're gonna go over to North Vancouver because." They've got this like area built where you can like climb in the trees, right? It's amazing, but you got to stay in a hostel in order to be able to get that environment. If you fly up and you stay in a nice hotel, you don't get that. And the whole point of this is for you to go do something challenging, right? My favorite country to travel to, I'm dying to go back, Istanbul. Istanbul is brilliant because it is half of Istanbul is in Europe, the other half is in Asia. It is a Muslim country, so you will hear the call to prayer 5 times a day, and it's beautiful. You're going to see people ladies dressed very conservatively, and you're going to see them dressed like every other Western woman on the planet. And I went to Istanbul during this time of year. The weather was great, and the food here is off the charts. The people are amazing. I took my 2 boys, and this is the place. I've said, hey, where do you guys want to go next? And they want to go back to Istanbul. We spent 10 days there. It was amazing. And you could go spend $1,250 airfare. You stay in a hostel. You're going to stay in the older part of Istanbul, which is where you want to be. And you're going to get up in the morning, and the smells of the food are just going to knock you out. It is so much fun, and it's cultural. And we're talking old country. This country's 4 times older than the United States, right? So we're talking 1,200 years old. I mean, and there's some ancient stuff, and you get to go to the mosques, right? When they're not, when prayer's not being held there, and you go in with respect, and you wear your pants, but you get to sort of like feel the vibe, man. And the people are extraordinary, and they're curious about you, and which allows you to be curious about them. And the food, I don't know, and the coffee. Whew, you drink that coffee, you're not going to fall asleep until Christmas. Bunch of people want to go to Seoul. Ben, Seoul is lightning, right? But if you go and you've got a little bit of time, you're going to want to go to Seoul, and then hopefully you get like a day trip or 2 to get outside of Seoul, and because it's beautiful, man. maybe go to Busan, obviously a little bit farther, but you take the train, and there's just so much to do there. And the people are nice, they're beautiful. The food is off the charts. It is just lively, and you're going to go in and embrace extraordinary amounts of food and lots of great culture. Um, or Japan. I got to tell you, my boys just went last year by themselves, and I put them in Shinjuku. They were, I don't know, 2 minute walk from the big train station in Shinjuku, which you can get anywhere then. And it's off the charts. And I use this picture of this pod hotel, capsule hotel. And you really could stay in one of these. Are kind of fun. And especially if you're like traveling with a couple other people, because it sort of gives you that real vibe. Or you could also stay in Shinjuku in a nice hotel. But if you stay in one of these, or you stay in a hostel, yeah, in Tokyo, you get a little bit of food in the morning, and sometimes they have food in the afternoons. And once again, you just you're going to meet a bunch of great people, and Tokyo is just extraordinary. And if you are an anime nerd, this is like your mecca, right? For sure. If you're a Disney person and you like to go to Disneyland a couple times a year, you put Tokyo Disney on your bucket list, and it's amazing. It's smaller, but it's so incredibly cool. Lots of fun stuff to do, right? Inevitably, students like, oh my God, I'd love to, but I don't have any money. Oh my God, you don't understand how poor I am. I gotcha. I see the Jordans on your feet, right? So you're not that poor. And I get it. You got them from your brother for your birthday, but still, one, you get money, sell some of your stuff. You got stuff. Go into your closet, go into the garage, and look at the stuff you've got. Clean the shoes and resell them. Put them up on Facebook Marketplace. I'll put them up on Poshmark if they're nice. Sell the stuff on eBay. This summer, I decided I wanted to sell a bunch. I've got a watch problem. I wanted to sell a bunch of my stuff so I could go buy some new watches. And Matt was selling stuff on eBay. I sold like $7,000 or $8,000 worth of stuff on eBay. And man, you could sell stuff, right? And get a side hustle. It is the fall. And you know what people need in the fall? They need people to come clean their gutters. And so you get a little ladder and garbage bags, and you go up and clean people's gutters. They'll pay you. I paid a couple $100, $300. I got a 3-story house, so you don't want my house. You want those nice 1-story houses in Hayward. Go up there, clean out those gutters, make $100. It's going to take you 30 minutes, man. And you fill a garbage can and you leave the garbage at their house. And you could go in a weekend, you could go make $1,000. And now you're off to Istanbul, right? Start a GoFundMe campaign, hit up all your aunts and uncles, and, tell them to share it with all their friends and everybody. Maybe go make $500. I'll put a picture of you and I'm going to Istanbul and there's a business trip and earning extra credit, blah, blah, blah. Big one. Stop eating out, man. Go home and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Seriously. I am shocked at how many of my students I'm going to have Cane's. The Cane's opened. Really? So did that Jiffy, they canned Jiffy peanut butter and the grape jelly from the Rayleigh's. I don't buy the good jelly. I buy cheap jelly. And go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, for God's sake. Save that money and go to Istanbul. The food in Istanbul is so much better than Cane's chicken. I know you're probably like, oh, you're lying. You've never had Cane's. I've had Cane's, and I've had food in Istanbul, and you'd rather have the food in Istanbul, right? So I want to go. What do I do? First, decide where you want to go. You want to have a little chat? We can have a chat. We can do some planning. We could kick around some ideas, run some scenarios. I'd love it. Find a travel partner. This is not something you want to do by yourself. And then you got to talk to your parents. And your parents will be like, you want to do what? And their default is going to be no way. And because they want to protect you for a little while longer. At some point, they want you to move out. But right now, you're still like they still picture you being really, really small. So they're going to want to protect you. So you're going to have to talk them into it. Look, Mom, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go. We're staying here. We're doing that. We're not going to do anything crazy. I'm going to call you before I go to bed every night. Blah, blah, blah. Put together your pitch. You've been doing it for years. You can make it happen. Create a funding plan. How am I going to pay for this? Because you need the money pretty quick, right? You got to pay for that travel up front. You can have your spending money you can get that money 2-3 months from now, but you got to put together that money, go buy that airline ticket, and put together that plan. I'm going to go clean gutters. I'm going to go walk dogs. I'm going to go clean yards. I'm going to go do menial labor, and I don't like to do it, but I'm going to do it. And if you don't have one, get a passport. So if for whatever reason you are not able to get a passport, reach out. We'll figure it out. We'll find a nice, challenging thing for you to do in the U.S. Won't be as much fun. And I don't know, maybe it will be. Maybe we'll find somewhere interesting for you to go. All right, let's talk about Canvas. Obviously, you're on Canvas now. And so you're seeing this video, and this video was on Canvas. So you're already familiar, I'm assuming. Classes run on Canvas. Everything is really in the modules. You're going to want to stick in the modules. Everything you need is in a module. Week 2, there's going to be the lecture. I'm not going to lecture. I'm not going to do it. I'll put the PowerPoint of what a lecture would look like, but I'm not going to lecture. What I will do is I'm going to have an introduction to each of the case studies. So you're going to click on the case study. It's going to be like step 1, watch the lecture. And then I'm just going to introduce the case study so you know what I'm looking to get from you out of that case study. And then there's videos, man. If we're going to learn about economic systems, I really want to, there's probably 200 YouTube videos in this class. And I would rather have you learn from Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of the biggest bank in the world and arguably one of the smartest people on the planet, maybe the top 5 people off the charts bright. I'd rather hear from Jamie Dimon, right? I'd rather hear you learn from true experts. You don't need to hear from me, right? And so I put together the best. My job, I put together great content. And then I put together the structure of the class. But I'm going to use videos from somebody else because they're just going to be better. And I think you're going to enjoy them a lot more, right? The objectives, pretty straightforward. But for me, the big one is financials. I'm a big finance guy. It was sort of my first love, I guess. And so I want you to be able to understand, how do you analyze financials? That's one of our projects. We'll talk about that in a minute. Distinguish between ethical and unethical business. We've got a whole week on that. And then it's sort of weaved into the whole class. And then be able to, describe the functions of a typical business, right? This is the book. It is free. And it's been updated. There's new versions, but it doesn't matter. You click the link, it takes you to the latest version of the book. It is free. It's a pretty good book. It's not bad. You can get it printed. You can download the PDF, or you can just read it online. It's really up to you how you do it. If you want to have it printed, I think the bookstore, not the bookstore, but the bookstore will do it for you. I don't know. I think they might charge you $15 maybe if you want it printed. So there's really 3 parts to the class, right? There is the reading. Every week there's something to read. That's you. There's videos that have to be watched. That's you. And then the case studies and sometimes lectures, that's me. And that's us. And you put those 3 things together and you got success. Now, if you don't watch the videos, you're gonna be missing a big part of the class. You may not do as well, or it might take you significantly longer to do what would otherwise be a 15 or 20-minute test. It might take you longer because you didn't do the work to prepare, right? But these are really the 3 pieces that sort of come together to create a successful class. So the course flows like this. There will be a case study that opens on Monday. You will have until Wednesday to post your comment. And then you will comment on 4 classmate posts by then. So these are case studies. So it's kind of like, one of them is, should I make bikes in the U.S. or bicycles in the U.S. or should I manufacture them overseas? Should I outsource? Well, there's a number of variables that have to be taken into consideration. Let's say, for example, you decide to outsource. Got it. Your cost of goods, which we'll talk about later, is going to decrease. That's good news, right? We want that. But now I got to figure out, well, this is a pretty competitive market. How much am I going to sell my bike for? So you're going to be coming up with all these answers, right? I should sell my bike for this and blah, 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 blah. But you're going to hear what the other students are thinking. And the reality is that what another student posted might make you might go, oh, wow, that's a really good point. Maybe I should do that instead. And the whole reason for case studies is that these are real world problems. And today, I'm going to guess there's 500 companies that are kind of trying to figure out, gee, do I manufacture in the US or do I manufacture abroad? And that's just the way it works, right? So you're going to have, you introduce it Monday, you put your post by Wednesday, and you comment on the student post by Friday. On Wednesday, there's another case study that's introduced. And you got to get your post by Friday, and you got to get the comment to students by Sunday. And then all exams are due on Sunday. Okay. Now you could do you could do the quizzes early if you want. It's really up to you. But they've got to be done no later Sunday, 11:59 p.m. And I get it. You're gonna be, oh my God, I forgot, or I was running late, or it took me longer, or my internet went down. Those are my greatest hits of excuses. And my answer is always no. I do not reopen quizzes. I just won't do it. And I won't give you extra time. So these things are open. Every last assignment is already open. You logged into Canvas, everything is live. Everything from quiz 1 all the way down to the final exam. So there is no reason for you to turn in work that is late. So points, right? So there's 1,300 points available. And we had 18 of these case studies, and we got the projects. You'll notice the projects are of equal value to the exams because they really are valuable, right? And so, I already did that. Is that in here twice? Well, that would be annoying. Or did I go backwards? It went backwards. Points. There we go. Points, grades. So 1,170 points out of 1,300 gets you an A, right? 1,040 gets you a B. Anything less than 779, let's assume we'll have had a chat before then. And so you don't have to get the F, you'll withdraw or do something, right? Project 1, don't worry about this today. It's not due for a few more weeks. When it's ready, I'll tell you. But what you're going to do is you're going to interview a business owner. And they got to be a person running an actual company. I know it can't be your boyfriend who's building a brand, right? Or your girlfriend who does nails. That doesn't work. It's got to be a real business. And so it can't be friend or family member that you're interviewing. Now you can use, let's say, for example, you've got an aunt or uncle that work at Kaiser and they're going to introduce you to the CEO of Kaiser. Brilliant, right? Use your network to do that. You're going to create a PowerPoint presentation of the interview, and I'll give you examples of what it should look like. And you're going to create a video and give that presentation in the video. And you could use it using, I don't know, Studio or something that's in Canvas. Or you could just create a video using your phone or your laptop or whatever. And you're going to post it to YouTube and give me the link to that video. If we're in class, you would be doing it on campus, but we're not. So you're going to do it this way. Project 2 is my favorite. You're going to look at a financial analysis for 3 companies, public reporting companies. And you're going to compare and contrast their financial results and tell me who did the best. Once again, create a PowerPoint and create a presentation. I don't care if it's PowerPoint or Canva or Google Slides. I don't care, but create a presentation with you talking and send me the link. I'm on Canvas a couple days a week, Monday, Wednesday. And then if you want to Zoom, hit me up or just call me and send me a little text and we can figure it out. And, if you've got a question, send me a text up until about 8. Man, I try to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I like to read and I will read and get my brain to turn off. And then I'm up early because my first class is at 8 a.m. And so I go to bed early. You can get me probably up until about 8 o'clock. Anything after 8 o'clock, you're going to wait till the next morning to hear from me. And general logistics, once again, hit me up. I've got one phone number. I don't have like two phone numbers. And so when you text me, you're going to be texting me on my one phone. And so that's why I said you could get me up until about 8 o'clock. Send me a little text if you want to have a chat. And if you say, hey, do you have a minute for us to talk? Unless I'm cooking or doing something, I'll almost always say yes, right? If you're on campus, come see me. I've got a great office. I'm going into this week to go redecorate. And I got the nicest office on campus. It's still bigger. It just looks nicer. I got a nice big comfy leather chair. You come in, have a seat. I've got a great coffee. You come have a cup of coffee and say hello. So, some of you this semester, it's going to be rough, man. You're going to be like, oh my God, I know I'm going to fail the class. I need to drop. Don't quit, man. Don't do it. Don't like hit a rough patch and have it be the very first thing you do is quit. Don't do that. Why? Because quitting becomes pretty darn easy, and it becomes a horrible habit. Because you're gonna have stress, stress, and then you quit, and the stress goes away, and that like hits a pleasure point, right? And so every time you have stress, stress, I just quit. I feel better. The problem is that the pain doesn't really go away, right? The thing that was causing the stress doesn't go away, but the work required maybe went away. So if you're feeling some stress, you're like, man, I got to go. Reach out to me. Let's have a little chat. Let's see if we can figure it out. In some cases, I'll be like, yep, come see me next semester. Or you know what? Maybe the online class is not for you. I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of them. But and I'll say, take my class next semester. Otherwise, sometimes I'm going to be kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man, you're doing pretty darn good. Let's stick it out. Let's see if maybe you could do this, that, or the other. But don't just get into the habit of quitting. It becomes like too easy to quit. And it's just a horrible habit, right? And so some of you are going to be like, oh my God, but you don't understand. I am so tired. Got it. If you're tired, do the work tired. That sounds heartless, right? But I gotta tell you, when you get out into the real world, nobody is going to care if you're tired. They're only going to care if you're putting in the work. Might as well get it done now, learn now, right? If you're sick, got it. Do the work sick. I hear it all the time. I was really, really sick. Really? Did you watch like Netflix and chill and watch TV? Yeah, you could have done your work too, right? If you're stressed, got it. Do the work stressed. Stress is an important part of our life, by the way. Without stress, we don't grow. We need a little bit of stress. If you're hungry, got it. Do the work hungry. Come to my office. I've got a whole drawer of snacks. You can have some coffee, grab some snacks. Now you're not hungry anymore. Go do the work. If you're sad, I understand. Go do the work sad. Because completing tasks makes you unsad. That's what the research tells us. I'm not making stuff up, right? And so why am I so harsh? Why am I so hard on this, right? The reason is that you guys are still, your generation is still part of this thing that's being called the pandemic generation. And you're like, but that was like 5 years ago. Uh-huh. And 5 years ago, what grade were you in? And you may have forgot what the impact of that was, but your test scores aren't showing it. So this is an article headline from Bloomberg News, man. Bloomberg is the business news outlet in the world, right? And this is why. This is the problem is we've got, and the numbers aren't any better, by the way. They're just not. And, these numbers came down in some cases 10 points or more. And as a result, employers are sort of looking and going, how are we going to be assessing these people? How do we assess? And, it's not just because you're at the community college. That's irrelevant, right? I was at a training at the Harvard Business School last summer. And I was there, and it was, I was having conversations with like real professors, right? That's why I'm like, don't call me professor. I'm talking being professors from Georgetown and Harvard and Yale, et cetera. And they were talking about the same issue, man. Employers are kind of like, yeah, okay, got it. Okay, so they're meeting the minimum of this, but, do they have the ability to engage other human beings? Do they have the ability to do math and think critically? And so I sort of take this class very, very seriously. I want you to rough it out and have it be difficult and overcome that challenge. And because you might have more challenges in the workplace than I did. So the reality is, my example is Chabot College can make a big difference if you allow it to. One, you should be exploring classes. I mean, there's no way you know what you want to do when you grow up. And by the way, you're going to probably have 4 careers by the time you're done, and four. And this is my fourth. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I'm sure there's something else on my diary that I'm not aware of yet. And so you should be exploring what sounds interesting to you. Go get a degree in something that sounds interesting. My son thought he wanted to study business. He ended up getting a degree in liberal arts. It doesn't matter, right? Explore, take classes that sound interesting. And if this class just sounds boring, because you're like, man, this guy just won't stop talking, drop the class, drop fast. You got a week or two, drop fast and go take something else. Find the thing that stokes you, and then go pursue that at all costs. So, yeah, man, I promised you it would take 20 minutes. And I didn't lie. I underestimated. So you know how to find me. Hopefully you got a good lay of the class. I'm pretty stoked about getting to do this class online, because I think this whole dynamic of how do we create a really interactive environment and experience with other students, I'm pretty excited to explore that. So you know how to find me. I'm Miguel. Just let me know how I can be helpful. Peace.